Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being there. I appreciate so much everybody watching. And well, today I'm really happy to have with me once again, Michael Wann. How are you, Mike?
I am doing very well, Rafa. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the folks that are joining us at home. Hopefully, we're going to have a really insightful and enjoyable conversation.
I think so. I've been following, as you know, you and Emily and all the stuff you guys have been doing. Well, not all of it, but I'm very excited by everything that's coming up in your conversations and about time and etc. But today I wanted to speak a little bit about something that you guys do. The Glass Bead Game.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to get like I'd like if you could share kind of explain to the audience a little bit of what it is and how it works. So as I understand it, it's like a game of connections, correct?
That is correct. And so we'll take a couple steps back. So where does the name Glass Bead come from, or Glass Bead Game come from? It comes from a book which was published, I think, in the 1950s, maybe, by Hermann Hesse. And the nature of the book is it deals with this kind of like a utopian group which was part of the culture sometime in the future, and it's a bunch of both scholars and academics, or scholars and artists, and in general. And then within that group, there's something which they were best known for, which was playing the glass bead game. And what that was being able to find in the most artistic and in most scholarly way all of these kind of interconnections throughout reality. And what's interesting in the book, they don't ever really like talk about how the game is played. They just make reference to it throughout. It's really like a story about a man's life who is like the master of the glass bead game. And so what Emily and I did was prior to calling our regular show the Glass Bead Game, like, you know, what we do is we kind of like free flow with connections, and we do it in what in the modern nomenclature would call like synchromysticism, basically seeing how all of these things are things, being like any topic, are interconnected in ways which go beyond like rational connection. And so like everything is in play, any way which you can make this sort of connection. And so we were doing that. We were doing this kind of like conversation where we would look at all of the connections. And one of the listeners who I actually did a private session with, or who I'm assuming it's someone who I did a private session with, who I think it is, but I can't say without 100% certainty, sent me a package in the mail, this like phenomenal package. And that is where we got the included in it was like hints towards this book called The Glass Bead Game, which is where we were introduced to the concept. And when we saw the book and Emily and I were talking about it, we realized like, hey, this book is basically the same idea of what we're already doing, but it's got a cultural precedence in terms of a name, so we like that name, the Glass Bead Game, so we call it that. And so the idea is really like, what we do is we just talk about whatever is showing up in our lives, what's showing up in the news cycle, and showing all of these connections. And what Emily and I are really interested in is we always like to talk about place names and places on the earth. But to me, and that in itself is kind of fun, I suppose. But to me, what I think the real value, like, why is this anything more than just like mental masturbation, looking at all of these things that are interconnected, is I think it's training. It's training. What the book kind of points at, and the way I understand reality, and the way which Emily does, is that reality is all about these interconnections, and certainly we see connections in obvious ways, but then to really make these connections, which are seemingly should not be connected, by going into the practice of looking at that in a fun, playful sort of way, both in terms of her and I like doing it live, but then also for the people who are watching it, it is building this muscle in terms of seeing the interconnectedness of reality. And why that is important is when you become more and more like mentally tuned into synchronicity or connections or all of these things, your life becomes more driven by that, more driven by the natural unfolding of life, the mystery of life. That's one of the big things for me is standing in the uncertainty or the mystery of like, what the hell is all this going on anyway? Like not trying to necessarily solve the question of like, what is reality, as much as it is like understanding how to participate in it on, a higher level than typical rational thinking.
What I think is it's interesting how we can learn to see how everything connects, and it makes you more present in your life. Is what I felt just by listening to you two.
I would, and all of those things are kind of like the byproduct. I mean, one of the ways which I look at the culture of life on Earth right now is everything is about understanding reality through these false realities, like things which aren't actually reality, but we put all of our attention upon them and it becomes a reality. Whether that be like time, the concept of time, calendars, just the things which we value, financial systems, all of these sort of things. Like they're not real. Like, I mean, they're real in the extent that like there really is money and we exchange money and are able to exchange goods and services. But like, money ain't real. It's only real because we agree upon it. So those being examples of false reality. And when we step back into like, let's say the greater mystery or the greater reality, that's where we find these interconnections. And just like what you're saying is like, when your thinking mind becomes more attuned to that, more focused on that as opposed to focusing on the false realities which were given, well, then you get exactly what you're describing. You get caught up in the present moment as opposed to all of these false realities in which we live our lives within. So it's very freeing. Like, it's like, it's our approach is one, to have fun with it, to bring an element of fun as opposed to seriousness, because there's so much seriousness which is out there. But then also to escape this kind of, I mean, it's been said all the time, right? It's like, it's a mental prison. And what that means is the way which we see reality is that prison. We see it in such a way, and that prison limits us to understanding what exactly it is we're experiencing here. I think that has always been kind of the part of the motivation for anyone who would call themselves like a mystic, is the fact that they're trying to like get more in touch with the mystery of life. And that's always been like a potential path for human beings. But what is going on in the world right now makes getting out of that mental prison more significant, more timely than it ever has been. It's no longer on the fringe. It's no longer like, oh, this is an interesting path one can take, as much as like, well, guess what? They're all other paths lead to a certain destination you may not want to go to. So you better start coming to new pathways.
For me, this I remember in one of my previous episodes with Emily, she mentioned this thing about having fun with like. I mean, we spoke about conspiracies and how to look at them differently, rather than from a victim mentality, to start to incorporate and look at right, like the connections between things and start connecting the dots, which I think is something people like yourself and Emily, and I am a little bit like that too. We are good at.
I would say anyone who's listening to this show, anyone who I talk to, like we're all playing it.
Yeah, like from whatever one's life experience is, you speak with somebody else, and you start drawing lines of this glass bead game, like connecting your little micro universe with somebody else's and seeing, oh, all these things connect. And that thing about having fun, because there's this Gnostic idea of the universe being a prison, and you know how much, like you were just saying, the way the words you use and the way you describe the universe definitely sets up a kind of not prison but prism, that you look through.
I like that, prism instead of prison. That's a beautiful way of like kind of like playing with the words.
And learning to see things from this more empowering perspective of, okay, I'm finding connections and drawing meaning that's like sort of implied by the connections or something like that.
Definitely. So first question I have for you, because I want to go and make a comment, is there is a cat looking in the window over you. What is the cat's name?
Her name is Munai.
Monai?
Yeah, Munai.
What does that mean?
It's Quechua. Quechua is an indigenous language from South America.
Okay.
Quechua for the power of love. Yeah.
and she's your cat?
Yeah, she was actually my neighbor's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
She was my neighbor's cat, and he moved to a small apartment, and he only had her for like hunting mice and keeping his house safe while he was at work all day. So she was kind of a loner. She would spend we have a kind of a patio here that is shared by all the apartments, and she would be all day here. And she's kind of crazy cat, very wild. So she started getting like a kind of affinity with me. And when he moved, he came and said, hey, I'm moving. I noticed you get along kind of well with the cat. Do you want to keep her? And we had to think about it a lot because I've never had one. But eventually we decided, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, now she's our cat. I think she wants to come in, but she's going to be disturbing a little bit. So I'd rather she stay back there.
I like seeing her in the background. So that was a great story. Thank you for sharing that. But I want to go back to you touched upon conspiracy, and this is my take. This is the way I see through my prism, if you will. When someone becomes what they would call like a conspiracy theorist, or you're aware of like, oh wow, there's a different story, that's going on from the what we're told from the news or from like the official narrative, and that's kind of where the conspiracy comes from. And that is all about like how one does that or understands that is connecting dots. It's like seeing all of these things. Oh wow, this person was on the board of the directors here, but they were also like in this organization and that, and you begin to see all of these connections, which are kind of like hidden underneath the surface. And conspiracy kind of has two different, or I'm going to focus on two different aspects of it. One of it is very much is a victimization mentality. It's like, holy shit, like, all of this stuff is going on and no one knows about it. And we got to figure this out. And they're trying to get us and all of that. So you've got like that victim mentality when you start to like learn about all of this. And then it's also very, very, very rational. It's very rational. It's like, in the material realm of money and control and life on earth and resources and stuff like that. And then there's another kind of mentality which someone can bring just to life, and that would be kind of like maybe more of like a mystical kind of floating above it all, disconnected from reality, way of being, and just like, oh, everything is, I'm a multidimensional being and all this sort of stuff. And we're here having experiences and not wanting to be at all grounded in like what's actually happening on the material level. And there tends to be like a disconnect between these two ways of being. One being like it's all about facts and it's all about let's get to the bottom and stop the new world order and all of this sort of stuff, and the other side is like not grounded in temporal reality at all, which is like none of this matters, we're multidimensional. But this intersection, this overlap between the two, because there is where we find this synchromystic, or maybe the glass bead game, or all of this sort of stuff, where you incorporate like a lot of like the skills necessary to be good at understanding conspiracy is like detective work and paying attention to details and seeing connections, but then also being able to apply that in this kind of like, oh, we are, in a mystery, and there are multiple versions of life and all of this sort of stuff. And when we can combine those two, and not to be too much on one side or too much on the other, but to bring them both and to blend them, that to me is where the doorway into playing the glass bead game, to being synchromystic, to like approaching life in this like mystical slash conspiratorial slash like and bring fun into it sort of way, like that to me is the sweet spot. And where I think a lot of us are going to find our way through this circumstance.
I remember this idea that every conspiracy leads to spirituality or something like that. That you go down the rabbit hole of conspiracies, and eventually you reach the idea that you're a whatever being, that you're God, that you're the universe playing the glass bead with itself.
Yes, yeah. And I would say the opposite like is true too. A lot of conspiracy folks start on the spiritual path, and then they start like looking into all of the spiritual teachings which they've been taught, and then they're like, oh, look at the organization where this came from, and like and then like you're absolutely right. Like they do seem they will, if you go down that path far enough and you continue that curiosity investigation, you will go and see those where they do overlap.
Yeah, they definitely do converge. And so with this context, I wanted to show you something. Yeah.
Please do.
So let me check this out. I'm gonna go share a screen. Yeah. So last time we spoke, you left me with a cliffhanger. Let me see. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Yeah, there's a map. Okay, so we ended up with a kind of cliffhanger for me. We were looking at, this is my city of Montevideo.
Right, I remember this point.
Yeah, and so we were seeing how there's this kind of earth energy pointing south towards this place, which is known as Punta Carretas, so the point of the chariots or something like that. So just to give a kind of a general recap or general idea of Montevideo and the founding of this city. Yeah. So the Spanish came, and can you see my pointer, my mouse?
Yes, I can see all that.
Awesome, cool. So the Spanish came. Oh, so let's just back away a little bit more. So on this side here we have Argentina. Okay. Then on the eastern side, this is Uruguay. And on top, to the north of Uruguay, we have Brazil. Yeah, just to give a quick idea of where we're at. Yeah, and so we come into Montevideo, which is this great thing over here, and here we have. Let me see. Here we have what's known as the old city, right?
Okay.
Let me see. There we go. Yes. So even a little bit more over here. So that's the port area of the city. And let me I'm trying to, here we go. Here we have this plaza here has the, it's something we call a caudillo, which would be like a liberator or one of the founders of, you could say, of Uruguay, or one of the heroes, or the like a person into which a whole bunch of stuff has been projected, and so he's like one of the fathers of our country. He's called, which actually his name is interesting. I recently realized his name is very similar to King Arthur. So his name is Artigas, right? So this guy Artigas is located on this, beneath this place. There are the remains, allegedly, of Artigas, who died actually in Paraguay because he was exiled. There's this whole part of our history that is the exile of the Oriental peoples. That's how we're calling it here. And there's this gate on the western side.
Can you do like a street view of that gate?
Yes.
Or where you drop the little guy? Yeah, where you drop that guy in.
Here we go. It's called the gateway of the Citadel. So in this point, it's actually around. Let me see.
Yeah, you're gonna have to turn that.
Yep. So, oh yeah, we're standing right on the gate. So over there on the background, you can see he's on a horse, right? And beneath this is his alleged remains. And here we have let me see if I can get right in front of it. Yes. So the door of the Citadel. So this was the entrance to Montevideo. So you would go in this side and continue walking towards where Artigas is, right? And that's where the city started, actually. So
that's where the what started?
The city of Montevideo, when it was
founded.
When
it was first founded.
Exactly.
Founded by whom? By the Spanish?
By the Spanish.
By the Spanish, and then this was the original entranceway into it?
Exactly.
Wow.
At a certain...
what is the time period when that was built? Or what they tell us?
Something, I'm not exactly sure. I could search it, but around 600, 1700, 1600, 1700.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Montevideo. Founding, you would say found? Yeah, 1726.
1726, okay.
So around that time. So, at certain time in the evening, when the sun was about to go down, they would shoot cannons to let people know who were on this side, on the other side, which is now constructed, but on this other side, so to the west, outside of the city, they would shoot cannons to let people know, okay, we're gonna close the gates because the sun is coming down. So that was like the bell ringing for the students to get back to school.
Right.
So let me just take it out for a moment. So, right, so all this western side towards what I showed you before, the port and stuff, right? So
can I ask you a couple questions? Can you zoom back in again?
Yep.
Zoom back into the square.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And on the back up just a little bit. There we go. On the lower right-hand corner, there's a building. Your cursor is right on top of it. It's got, yes. What is that?
That is called, it's a very interesting building. It's a very phallic symbol. It's called,
certainly.
It's called Palacio Salvo. So Salvo Palace. I've never been. There's actually, on one of the topmost floors, there's a music recording studio, which has an amazing view. And let me see.
What is it currently used as now? Is it like an apartment building? Is it commercial? Is it government?
I think it has many things. It has a few apartments. It has this recording studio. But it's a kind of a weird place because it's a very old building. So the apartments, I guess they're like pretty large, and I don't know who would be living there today. But yeah, all around this, there's hotels. This Radisson Victoria Plaza, this is a very large hotel. You can see it's got lots of floors. So is there a question that you had here?
I was just curious what it was, because it just caught my eye.
Yeah, let me see if I can show you a picture of the building.
I'm looking at it right now on Wikipedia.
Okay. Cool.
So keep going.
Yeah. So I was showing you all of this to like give you an idea of Montevideo and how it was founded. So it starts here, and it goes to the east, right?
Okay.
We have near the water this thing that we call the Rambla, okay, which is the coast street. What would you call that? Like in Miami, you have the Ocean Drive. It's kind of like
right.
Yeah, Ocean Drive, and well, eventually you start going. You have this Ramirez Beach, and then here last time we saw the golf club, the golf course. Right, and eventually you reach this point where we have the lighthouse. And last time, this is all to return to what that cliffhanger from last time, where you mentioned this thing of all the energy of the city is pointing over there, right? So I'm still not quite certain why or what's happening here. But I do remember, like after we spoke last time, I started remembering, okay, so around this, there's a few interesting spots. So number one is this green area here, which is called Plaza Canada, so Canada for the country. All of this has a very beautiful view. You can see the sunset if you look west, right? But also over here, in between these buildings, so we have let me remove the labels. I think this is clearer. Over here, so this large building, that's like the end of the point.
Right. But that's the building, and it's triangular. It's right at the point of the roads before you get to the point of the land.
Correct. And if we move like to a block and a half or something like that, we reach this space over here in between two buildings, which, let me see, am I in the right place? Yeah. This place is today it's a museum, but it's originally the house of a very famous poet from Uruguay, who is called Juan Zorrilla de San Martin. Okay. This writer, so 1855 to 1931. He's very famous over here. He's actually, I was just looking, he's actually in one of the lower denomination bills. So 20 pesos, which is like 50 cents for you. He's in that bill. So yeah, he's pretty important in that way. And here we have the statue of him, right, which is actually located right in front of his house. So I try to point with my finger now. So here with my arrow, you can see this is.
Can you do the street view of this?
Yeah. The little guy. Okay. So yeah, here we go. This one with all the trees.
Yes.
It's now a museum, but you can see it's a pretty nice.
That's place. His house, the one with the tile roof.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a very big all around it. It's got this big garden, and this kind of, what would you call this kind of house? It's like a villa or something like that, correct? And it's wedged in between a couple of buildings that they made. So you would go into the house, I guess, through this door over here. And right in front of the house, let's turn around. See, this is that Ocean Drive that I was saying.
Right.
And well, actually, look, in front, first we see this monument, which it's apparently a monument to in commemoration to guitars. The Monumento de la Guitarra is the name, I think, which I don't know if it could be kind of like the end of the guitar. I don't know, like if it was stuck into the ground.
Right.
But you got that, and if we go a little bit further, Where is it? There we go. Over there, you can see the statue. Let me move a little. Yeah. So not quite in front of his house, but right over there, we see a statue.
That's the statue of him.
And yeah, the statue of this poet.
Of the poet.
Right? The one we were seeing right before. And I don't know, but in my intuition and stuff like that, I didn't find it in a quick search that I did before we started this. But in my own estimation, I think there is a Masonic connection between this guy. With this guy. I'm pretty sure, but I didn't find anything connected to secret societies in particular. But interestingly, he had 13 children. And actually one of his granddaughters became a very famous actress in Uruguay. She's dead, she's passed now, but she's like, if you think actresses, you normally think of this woman.
Okay.
But who, by the way, they called her China, like China.
Right.
Her nickname. But interestingly, near his house, so we were seeing that his house is over here on the top, and removing the labels again, very close to this point we were mentioning. But also, if we go across this western street that goes north, this is Artigas, you know, the hero that I was mentioning earlier. This is Artigas Boulevard, so it's like one of
Does it go to the square?
No, it doesn't. It's like one of the 2 or 3 main streets of the city. If you go,
does it have is there a central point that road goes into, like a circle or something like that?
It does. You're gonna love it. You're actually making me think of a few things. You're gonna love it. But first, let's make a short stop.
I love these tours.
Yeah, that's so cool. So well, here you can see a few like tall towers that are pretty interesting. But if we continue another block, here we go. In the end of this block over here, where you can see this white thing and a few and this house. This place is also interesting. We can do a street view as well. Okay, so a little bit. There's this big house over here, kind of mansion looking.
Is it a private residence currently?
Well, let me just show you a little bit more and I'll tell you what it is, because it's very interesting. You can see on the side, it's got this garden as well, with a few statues and little streets, and the streets have names. And even, I don't know if we can see them here, but guarding the gate, there's 2, griffins.
Okay.
Now, actually, this photo is old. Now they are painted in like dark red. Yeah, you can see there's one on the left and one on the right.
Right.
And this place, if we can see the name here in the shield, it says Parva Domus Magna Quies. So let's look at that. Parva Domus Magna Quies, right? You can see this here. Let's open this picture. Right, here we can see them painted in red. Okay, this happens to be, or seems to be, the Republic of Parva Domus Magna Quies, also known as Parva Domus, is a self-proclaimed micronation surrounded by the city of Montevideo. It has served since 1878, so like 100 years after the found, or 150 years after the founding of Montevideo, as a civil, cultural, and recreational association. So we could say this is a country inside of the
right, like your Vatican City or your United Nations or your City of London.
Yeah. So Parva Domus Magna Quies kind of means, here it says it means little house, great rest, or great, maybe quies could be like quiet, so like silence or rest, right? Parva Domus Magna Quies. Let me get
So
the
the home of like silent rest, like you would go there to get away from everything else. You're not part of the everything which the rest of the city is.
which kind of sounds like secret society, right?
I'd say so. Does it say, can you convert that to English? I can't read Spanish.
Yeah. Here we got it.
There we go. Self-proclaimed micronation, civil, cultural, self-proclaimed, including the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, famous where it says famous parvenses. What are they? Is that members?
Right.
Among its citizens. So these are people who, and that's the poet on the top, right?
That's the poet, the first one.
That's the poet on the top.
Eduardo Fabini, if I'm not mistaken, he's he's a composer. He's a musical composer. He's a very, very well known also. This other guy, I don't really know who he is. And Isidoro de Maria, his name sounds similar.
So they don't tell you. They don't tell you anything on this Wikipedia entry. They don't tell you who founded it. They don't tell you like where the money came from. They don't tell you.
It says nothing. One interesting.
I'd be curious if that was in my city.
Yeah, definitely. One interesting thing that I remember reading, I don't know if it's here or maybe it's on their website, which isn't very good or very complete, but they don't accept women. It's only a male country or city or microstate. And excepting like there's like a couple of days where they get together and like a couple of days a year, I think it was, and they cook and then women are invited. So, you know, they even have a 125th anniversary of independence commemorative coin, 10 pesos oro parvense. So it's 10 pesos gold from Parva Domus, right? Parvense. 1878 to 2003. This is the.
Do you have any idea who that I'm assuming it's a woman who that is supposed to be?
The one in the coin, I'm not sure. On the other side, we have like a Pegasus, right? With wings.
Right, there's a Pegasus and
pretty interesting, right?
It is that, yeah, that is really interesting.
Another interesting thing is they can, according to their constitution, they can only have like 250 simultaneous citizens. And it has, in 130 years, it's had over 800,000 citizens.
Does that math make sense to you?
I mean, it would depend for how long each citizen is a citizen, right? If
exactly.
Like for 1 year, I don't know.
Well, to go from to only have 250 at any given time. You need to convert the years into days. And then, you'd have, because 800,000 is too many. Like, how do you become a citizen? Right.
The whole country today has 3 million. The whole city of Montevideo has like 1.5 million. So it's almost the amount of people that live in the whole of Montevideo were citizens across time. I don't know. But we could dive very deep into this place. But you mentioned something when we were looking at the map just now.
Okay.
That's interesting. So this Boulevard Artigas, it goes on the east. There's the Parva Domus micronation, and on the west we have again the golf course, the golf club actually with its course, which is actually open on Sundays. You can go between like from the morning till evening or something like that. It's open to the public, and I actually went a few months back, or like in summer in February or around there. Which golf courses are interesting. I'm still not very very knowledgeable about them, but I've heard you guys mention that they are interesting and a few weird things about them. So here in the center, we can see again the Boulevard Artigas, yeah, which continues going north, up and up and up, until a very interesting spot over here, which is an obelisk. You found that?
Can you zoom out? I want to see where that obelisk is relative to the. So it's right there. Okay, keep going. All right, all right. So what were all those stadiums to the right?
I'll tell you. Interestingly, I removed the labels so as to have a clear view, but here at the bottom we get archetype at the bottom left.
Huh.
For some reason, there's a few that are appearing, and one of them here says archetype.
Theo the cat?
Furniture store. Theo the cat.
Oh, what's the name of your cat again?
She's called Munai.
Right? Weren't we just talking cats?
This is a cat sitter. This must be like a guy's house, and they keep several cats. That's interesting that it came up. So yeah, to the east, we get the larger one, the one easternmost. That's the Estadio Centenario. So that's the centenary stadium, which was built in commemoration of the 100 years of
independence.
There's kind of a few disputed dates, but around 1828, 1830, the independence, yeah. So which is connected.
So that was built in the 1800s?
No, this one was built 100 years after, in 1930, to commemorate
in 1930. Okay, is it still used?
Yeah, actually, it's where the first soccer or FIFA World Cup was played.
That's what was it built for that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was built for the cup, but it was built on the year that the cup was being played. So most likely it was built for that in particular.
So the first World Cup was held there?
Yeah.
And that was the 1930s? Is that around that time?
Yeah, in the year 1930. So Qatar, wow. I think is in the 2030. That would be 100 years after this one.
All right. Now,
Qatar is.
Now I'm really intrigued. All right.
Yeah.
What is it? FIFA? That's the organization that runs the World Cup.
Yeah. And actually, this first World Cup was won by Uruguay.
It was won by Uruguay.
Yeah.
All right. History. All right. Because anytime you see like these organizations, Olympics, FIFA, any of those are definitely you want to go and look deeper. Membership FIFA expanded in 1909. Okay. All right. So keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
I don't want to get distracted.
Yeah. I don't mean, maybe I'm getting a few facts from memory.
We're investigating. We don't have to be like bullet. We don't have to be really sharp with our things right now. And so what is that right there, what you're putting your cursor on?
To the west, we have it's in English, in Spanish, it's called a velódromo. So it's
for bikes?
For running
Cycling.
and for bikes. Yeah. What do you call that in English?
A velodrome?
All right, cool. For velocity.
I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
And then
I always thought they were indoors, but I guess not. Or the only one I've ever seen.
No, this one is.
That's that's definitely outside. So, all right.
And then to the south over here, this one I'm not sure right now. Let me see. It's got an interesting shape. Let's activate the labels here.
That looks like track and field.
Right. This is the velódromo. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. And then the other one
is. Athleticism. This one is for running and the other one is for bikes.
Right. Yeah. You could see where they would do the high jump or the long jump.
And also, interestingly, there is, where is it? There is a shooting range around here. Club de Tiro is the name. Here we go. Club Uruguayo de Tiro. So here is a place where people go, I guess, to train shooting guns. I used to come to one of these Central 5. This is like a small private place for foot. You got football, the soccer that you know from the World Cup is 11 players on each team. There's this other version with 5 players on each team, and it's more, it's easier to do this with friends or your classmates in school. So we used to go here when we were in school, and I remember finding like what's the name of the bullet after it's been
The
shot?
shells?
The shells, right? I would find shells around here, and I was like, oh wow, this is from bullets, and I'm just remembering this. So the thing here is we have, very interestingly, there's a fountain here, but if we go back to Boulevard Artigas, as I was saying before, we find an obelisk, which is
Can we see the street view of the obelisk?
Yeah. You can see this.
The obelisk of the, what is that?
Constitutionalists, or it's like, I guess it's in remembrance of the people who created the Constitution in 1830 that we were speaking before. I guess it's got something to do with that.
It's a really pointy obelisk as well. How are you able to zoom in with your Google Earth? What are you doing?
I have the computer trackpad, and I with 2 fingers I go up and down.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got good skills.
So, right, another, again, water and the obelisk coming up. And this is a very central point. If you were to go to the right, in like, well, I don't mean to bore you with all the details, but it seems like it's kind of interesting, right?
No, I like this sort of stuff.
Awesome. I
like to dissect layouts and stuff like that. So okay, so we see which do we know the date of the obelisk when that was erected?
Let's see. Here it says law, so it's, I think on the obelisk it must say, but
did it say on like the Wikipedia entry?
Yeah, let me look for it.
Or when you were looking at on the map, when we had like more of the street view, I thought there was, yeah, right there. So 1830. Or does that mean the people from 1830?
Yeah, it says here opened.
It opened right after it opened up after the stadium, the sports complex was built first, and then this was built. All right.
Yeah, it's 40 meters tall, so 40 meters. I don't know what's that in feet.
Law, liberty, and force.
Yeah, those are the 3 statues have those 3 words written
force is an interesting word to
law
include.
over here, and I guess if we looked at it from over there, we could see force, fuerza.
Okay.
And these statues, which I think they're all the same. And interestingly, if we look at the map again, it's not exactly pointing east, but then the obelisk is right in front of this other
road.
street.
I went to see where that road went.
Yeah.
Right, I noticed that.
So July 18th, let me tell you, July 18th, I don't want to get the thing wrong, but I think July 18th is the date of the Constitution. Let me just... Yeah, so the Constitution was, I don't know what you say it in English, it was sweared, or it was established on July 18th.
Is that a national holiday in Uruguay?
Yeah, it's one of the 4 or 5 days where people don't work. Right, so you have the founding father, Artigas Boulevard, you have the obelisk for the constitutionalists. Artigas was like the mastermind behind what later would become Uruguay. So he had some interesting ideas, but they didn't like catch on. So he eventually had to leave for Paraguay, where he died. But eventually, with time, he was like re-embraced or something, and
Mhm.
connected to the freedom and the constitution of our country. So the street, 18 of July, you know, it's a very commercial area. Like both sides of the street is stores and clothes and maybe supermarkets or small supermarkets. For example, here there's a place that's homeopathy. You have
Where does the Avenue of July 18th, what's the other endpoint of it?
well, you're gonna love that. It comes all the way over here. Here it connects with this other place, this other street, sorry, called Constituyente. So again, a similar kind of name, constitutionalist. And it continues, Constituyente goes towards the right over here, but 18 de Julio continues here, all the way, all the way.
Is that the square we looked at earlier?
No, this is not it.
That's a different square.
But over here, 18 de Julio finishes on the square we were looking at earlier. With the Artigas statue and the gate over here.
What are all of those tiny little squares, like the squares we see in the square? Like, what is that material?
I think it's just like granite or something like that.
Gotcha.
Let me get a street view of this, okay?
Well, they let you, yeah.
We can get a closer look of the floor. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure. No, that's not granite.
Okay,
right?
all right.
Is it?
I mean, it's some sort of permanent ground cover.
Yep. You have like the dark squares with the light lines, right?
Right.
And there's the statue. Oh, and there is the building that caught your eye earlier.
Right.
Salvo. It's very, very weird. If you see it from very far, it kind of looks like a dick and balls.
Is there other architecture that looks like that in the city?
Not exactly like it, but from the period for sure.
Like it reminds me of like a lot of the stuff you would see in Asia, like in India and in Vietnam now, like the what is it, Angkor Wat, like that type of,
yeah.
Like just from this angle and like how like that dome sort of and the texture of it, it looks it's definitely a striking looking building. Look at that.
Maybe, I'm not sure, maybe resembling something like in Madison Square Garden or something like that. Could it be?
That looks very French right there.
French,
with that roof line.
I say Madison Square Garden because I'm an ignorance. I mean more like some of those buildings in New York, you know, kind of old school buildings.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when I first looked at it. I first thought it reminded me, when I was looking at it from above, it was reminding me of the Dakota, which is right off of Central Park.
And then interestingly, so you see, we did all this thing from Zorrilla, we went up Boulevard Artigas, then we turned left, and we ended up again here in Artigas, in the founding father. And actually here where it says Torre Ejecutiva, Executive Tower, this is one of the main government buildings. So interestingly, they chose to, it's relatively new. And
where's the traditional Capitol building? Like, is there a traditional like government building, or where's the
there is this.
What is the title of the highest ranking government official? Is he president?
Yeah, the president.
Where's the president's mansion?
That would be, I think it's in a part called Prado. It's another neighborhood. It's kind of far away from here.
So it's not in this area?
No. And relatively close to here, there is here the Legislative Palace.
Okay.
It's pretty close. You go out at an angle, and here it's also a pretty large kind of mansion type of building.
Certainly.
I can show you the street view of this one too. Let's see. Right, it's pretty intense.
Wow.
And this is a very very crowded street, lots of cars all day going around this. So there's some energy being created here too.
Undoubtedly.
And here is where I guess the lawmakers, and there's diputados and senators. So I don't know if it's deputies would be the translation, but the people that make laws, I mean, they get together here. Who knows what's happening underneath this place? I don't know if there is some construction below. Who knows? So this would be kind of another government place that's very close by, right? And around here we have a theater which is called Solis. Sol is sun, so it's connected to the sun. And I have an interesting story connected to this. Let me show you the street view actually. So my family, part of my family comes from Italy, right? So my last name is Martinelli, that's Italian. And here we have the Teatro Solis, which when it was built, one of my ancestors, whose name is very funny, he was called Innocenzo, so innocence or innocent, Innocenzo Martinelli. He was one of the masons or the stone workers that created this building. And I have some papers or stuff that tell that he was responsible for this sun over here.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And what's the history of this theater? Like what was it first used for?
No, I couldn't tell you. I would have to explore a little bit. And they actually do tours inside of it, which I could take one and let you know. And
have you haven't taken a tour?
No, not the tour. I went once with I studied audiovisual engineering, and I went once with my class to this place, but they didn't give us the like regular tour. Actually, there's the main hall, let's say, where there's performances up, until today down there. There's like classical music. There's what you call this dancing, the Black Swan. What's the name?
Ballet.
Yeah, there we go. There's ballet, and there's what else here? There's opera. Yeah, so a very kind of classical mainly, but then there's also some stuff connected to local culture and local music or cultural music, and maybe they connect it with classical stuff too. And this main hall where they do the performances, there could be pictures of it, but interestingly, that main hall, on the ceiling there is this, I should find this. There is this painting, or I don't know what the name exactly of, you know, the round top of this, the dome, that's the word. The dome okay. From the inside, it's all painted, and it has names of different artists and important people from the arts, from history. And what I found interesting once when I was there is that one of the names I remember is Shakespeare, right? And you know, there's a whole bunch of codes connected to Shakespeare, and his name is misspelled. And
his
we
name
know
is misspelled?
I know they don't misspell them on purpose. You know, they create a masterpiece and they write Shakespeare. Let me see. How could I find a picture of that ceiling? Oh, here we go.
Let me see.
The ceiling here, right? We can't see it actually, but it's gonna be here for sure. Picture of the ceiling. Here we have another one. Let me see. So it's a pretty large place, right?
Certainly.
And around, you can see a little bit, you know how around here there's letters?
Mm-hmm.
One of these, if I remember correctly, one of those is Shakespeare. If we could only see it to see how it's misspelled and understand why maybe it's misspelled. Mhm. There's bound to come here a picture of that. Well, no, I'm not finding it right now. But I remember finding it very interesting that they would misspell the name of Shakespeare. Let's see if I went over here. Mhm. Okay, maybe we'll find it here. Mhm. No, okay. I don't wanna waste people's time searching for this right now. But if you guys wanted to see, you can search for Solís, Teatro Solís, Cúpula or Dome, and see where the name is misspelled. Which is, yeah, there's probably bound to be a code there. And actually,
I would agree. I would definitely agree with you. If you're going to see Shakespeare's name misspelled in something which was so significant within this city, yeah, definitely.
I think it's Shakespeare, like without one E. I think it's how they wrote it, if I remember right. So we went to, okay, and this was another part of the thing I wanted to show you. Okay, so all of this was in connection to Artigas, 18 de Julio, so July 18th, the street is all connected to the Constitution and the founding of Uruguay as a state, which is connected to the British. So in 1828, this guy called Lord Ponsonby, he came here to help Uruguay become independent. As we were taught in school, he was like, oh, wow, what a great guy. He's helping us become independent. But of course, he had his own British Empire interests, 1828. And it's connected to, in part, it's connected to the river. One of the main things that Montevideo is known for is its port. It's got a very good natural port. You have the bay over here. And it's also interesting, now that we have the labels, we can see the outline of the country, right? You can see it. And it's always been said that it's shaped like a heart. It's got the shape of a heart, okay? And on the west, we were saying we have Argentina, all the way here. And on the east, we have Brazil, right? So here where it says state of Rio Grande do Sul, that's the southernmost state of Brazil. And over here to the west, we have this national park and Rosario. This is Argentina bordering Uruguay, right? And one interesting fact also of Uruguay, now that we're going to speak a little bit about rivers, which is something that I know you love. Uruguay, some say, the way some explain it is that Uruguay is a country which actually doesn't have a name, because our country is actually called the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, or the Republic to the Orient of Uruguay, because Uruguay is actually this river that goes north, okay? This river that is the limit with Argentina. It's called the Rio Uruguay, Uruguay River.
So I wanna unpack that a little bit. So so the river's name predates the country, correct?
Correct.
And the river goes north. It goes up into, where does the river take you into?
Yes, the name comes from another Indian or Indian name. Indian is not the right word. Native, from another native tongue. Right. Uruguay means the colored birds or something like that.
The colored birds.
River of the colored birds. and it
And
goes.
is that whole area, that forested area, is that like rainforest, or is that
No, no,
no?
we don't have like rainforest. It's more
You
like
don't that so it doesn't go that
grass.
far into like Brazil and that area.
Well, Brazil starts having some rainforest and stuff, but more like over here.
Over there. Okay, so it's in a different place. Okay.
Mm.
And then let me ask you another question.
Here
So
is
you
a lot of cows, and they started planting soybean, right? So lots of what we call that, just
just regular
grassland
agriculture.
agriculture. Yeah.
Agriculture. And so when you said what was the official name, the Uruguay, the Orient of
In
well,
Spanish,
can you
it's
say that again?
República Oriental del Uruguay. So it's Republic to the Orient of Uruguay,
So
the
when it
river.
says the Orient, what does that mean? Like what is the
It's
context
like,
of that?
well, you know how like we call the Asians the Orientals because it's to
Mm-hmm.
the east. So it's
And
Orient
Occidental is West.
is west, exactly. So it's Republic to the east, but they called it Orient of the river Uruguay, which is this white line here.
Huh.
It's very interesting. And
That is
this
very
river,
excuse me, that is
yeah,
interesting.
and this river, it comes from the north, so from Brazil. I think it's from. I don't want to invent the name of the other rivers here. Mm, it's still Uruguay River, and we are already in Brazil over here. I think it goes to the Paraná River, but I don't want to invent. So here we have a lagoon. Is this a lagoon? Over here, Lago Itaipu. So I think it ends up going to the Paraná River, which is a pretty important river in South America. And it empties in what I said last time is the widest river in the world, which is
Right,
a
right.
pretty interesting title for this river. It's called
Definitely.
the River of Silver because of, allegedly, because of the name comes because of when you look at it at a certain time of day, it kind of looks silver,
Okay.
but maybe there's other reasons for the name.
Generally speaking, pardon my ignorance here.
Mm.
What's like culturally, and I'm being like really general, like what do like the citizens of Uruguay think of the citizens of Argentina versus like Brazil? Like, is there like rivalries? Like I could think of like what French and Germans think of one another, but like what is that dynamic, particularly Uruguay and Argentina?
Yeah, I sometimes liken it saving the distance because I'm not from there, so I'm not sure. But you know how that difference between the U.S. and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we look at Argentina like they are our big brother, so our bigger brother. So they would be kind of like the U.S. and we would be kind of Canada. So we're more like, sometimes we are known as being more relaxed, more laid back, more.
Mm-hmm.
We are like the small brother, and there's lots of rivalry with Argentina. First of all, we speak the same language and the same type of Spanish, which is called Rio Platense. So it's the Spanish from Rio de la Plata. And then with Brazil, we have a different kind of relationship because they speak another language. They're the only, probably the
Portuguese.
only Portuguese-speaking country. Maybe some of the countries more closer to like Guyana and some of these, maybe they speak some Portuguese as well. Suriname, some of those, maybe not, I'm not sure. I'm kind of ignorant also in that sense. But since they have this such a different language, and also in the border, there is this Portuñol language, which is a mixture of Portuguese and Espanol. So yeah, culturally they kind of bleed into each other. And there is also in Uruguay, it's very present, this African culture. It's very present in the music. So we have this music called Candombe. Let me see. Let me show you just a minute of Candombe so you get an idea of what it sounds like. Let's see. It's playing. Yeah, here we go. So Candombe is mainly drums. There's like 3 types of drums, from bass to mids and higher tones, right? And start playing.
On the screen share, you have to enable the sound.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to hear this.
You can see the video,
I can see the video, but I don't hear it. You have to go to your screen share where you click on that, and there should be a place to enable sound. Because right now I don't hear anything.
Sound. Let me see. You can hear now?
I can hear.
Here they're just like warming up or such.
Right. Yeah, let's go into like...
Okay, so it's a... They call this group Cuerda De Tamboris, so a string of drums. So it's like the whole street wide, drums, and several rows back, and they start walking, playing the drums. It's very, very cool to watch.
It certainly looks like
in every
right?
neighborhood, they have a different kind of way that they play it. And in every neighborhood, every now and then, like every Sunday or so, the different string of drums go out into the street and they start playing. It's very loud.
Do they walk while they play?
Yeah.
So it's similar to like what you see in New Orleans, like particularly with the horns.
Yeah, there is the African connection, likely.
Right, exactly. And
there's women, there's men, young, old. Pretty cool.
Very much.
Back there, you can see the river. Small kid. Very rhythmic. And then you can also have in front of the drums that are walking. I don't know if you can hear me. In front of the walking drums, there's women dancing. And you know, a whole array of characters which are part of old history. So you have that old man with the stick, and you have the do you remember in Mary Poppins there's this guy that cleans chimneys? What's the name of that?
The chimney sweep?
Yeah, there's one guy that is the chimney sweep. There's the old man and the old woman, and there's a few different characters that are always connected to this. Right? So
I bet, yeah, a lot of fun is what it looks like.
I want to add one final piece to this presentation. Thank you for being there. Thank you for keeping up to everybody that's watching. I like this idea that actually it's just you and me, but in the future, somebody will be watching this and it will be there present, and there's time playing there too. One more thing was that claim that I made last time of
the widest
river being the widest river in the world. Here I found this page which shows, first of all, the Amazon River, which says there is a part where it's 325 kilometers wide.
Wow.
So I guess where it opens up. And then the others are in miles, which don't seem like as large. 10 miles is not as much as the Amazon, not even close. So I don't know why this list is kind of weird. And then here it says this one is 650 meters. So 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. And here it says 325 kilometers. So this list is kind of whack. But yeah, if we go back, last time I didn't find it. And I was like, oh, maybe I made that up, or maybe that's one myth that we tell. But here, this time when I searched, the widest river in the world is Rio de la Plata, or River Plate, formed by the confluence of the Uruguay and Paraná rivers. And it empties into the Atlantic Ocean, flowing through Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina. So it's a very long, and then when it opens up, as we were seeing here.
Is that considered part of the river where Buenos Aires is?
Yes.
Or is so you can go to the widest part right there. Do you know how to like do the distance measure on Google Earth?
No, this is the maps. I don't know if I have that option here, but
if you right click.
Right. So I think the widest thing would be here.
Go to measure distance on the bottom, the very last one.
Good.
And now just click anywhere.
Right. There we go.
And then go and move those points to where you want to measure.
Cool. So I think I more or less picked the widest area. It's 300 kilometers over here, 300 and something. So competing close with the Amazon. So I chose this point because we generally know that around here is where the ocean starts. Mm-hmm. So the water it goes from sweet, it starts getting salty around there. So that's where more or less
How close is your city to Buenos Aires?
Let's see. Let's measure this. That would be Buenos Aires over here, and this is us. 200 kilometers.
200 kilometers.
Yeah.
Is there like a general rivalry between these cities? Is it seen that way?
Yeah, because
how
actually,
you see I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about it in terms of what I know in the United States, like a rivalry between like Philadelphia or Chicago and New York. But these are two different countries, but they're so close in geography. I'm wondering if there's like how the citizens of each city sees the other.
Well, one main difference that I think plays a role is that Buenos Aires was built with its back to the river. So they are looking towards the inside of the country, whereas Montevideo was built including the water. So that's why we have that kind of ocean drive, the Rambla.
Right.
And we have a natural port, which has been envied for centuries. So those two things, I think, play a major role in how the two brothers treat each other.
Are they thought of as brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially the two countries, but the two cities, which are the capital of each country.
So I definitely, I see where you're coming from in terms of recognizing there's something really interesting going on right here between these cities, and then that entrance point, that water entrance point into the mainland of South America. I mean, we think about it right now in terms of countries and borders, but if we can move outside of the borders, I mean, these two urban areas really mark key places. And I also agree with you, Monteverde. Is it Monteverdo or Verde?
Montevideo.
I need to see it for me to say it. So Monteverde.
Yeah, let me get close.
There's
several different ideas of where the name came from, but
I think your analysis of that point and the cities and all of that, and it's almost the more known overshadows the more significant. Everyone know Buenos Aires is a larger population, probably globally more recognizable city. But you're right, where you are with that natural harbor and that interesting wall entranceway into that park, and that gate is left open. There's a lot going on there.
And I found interesting. Now I measured from where kind of you could say the river gets wider, you know, before it empties, and from there up until more or less the line of the widest point, it's also 330 kilometers. So it's as long here as it is wide over here, which is pretty interesting. Oh, well.
Right. You could probably make a square. So I've got a couple minutes left. So like, where do we want to kind of wrap this up, or like kind of like point this to until the next conversation? Because I find this fascinating. I love doing this. I don't get to do this with anyone else. I love looking at these cities and like getting the tour, and then like being able to go and add to your research, because I can look at it with like fresh eyes.
Well, there's many ways this could go. In part, I would like for you to share like an overview of like what this maybe in a glass bead game kind of way, what this kind of woke up in you. And if you want, but this could be for next time, I could leave it as a cliffhanger. There's a place here. So all we've been exploring today is so much connected to water and to land mass. So the energies of the elemental energies, right? And just the other day, I was here in this park that is close to my house, which has, can you see it in this map? But around this place where I'm pointing here, and for next time I can get a better, I have a few pictures and I could come up with a presentation to show you. There is a kind of again, like a kind of a wedge made with several stones, smaller, you know, like the size of your torso or something like that.
Okay.
Few stones here that slightly point towards this corner around here. And actually, interestingly, this street around this park is called Leyenda Patria. So legend of the nation, patria as in nation, which is named after a poem written by
the poet we began with,
our friend Sorisha. Correct. So, and in that place, I found interesting that, here we go, Leyenda Patria. Patriotic, right? That. And this kind of wedge made of stones, I started looking at it with different eyes after I spoke with you. And the other day, recently, I saw that the wedge sort of points to a place that's been there for several years, which is actually a gym. And for me, it was interesting because this is like earth energy, so the physical body, and it points to a gym that's been there like forever. And it was only for women, and it eventually turned into a gym for both genders. And I found it interesting the other day because there was this truck that was delivering this thing called Beyond Meat. You know about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a truck delivering that, and I think they delivered it to the gym. And I was standing on this circle of rocks, and I was like, wow, so earth energy, the human body, and then this thing of meat, which is meat, but it's not, but it's beyond, but it's what the hell is it and who's involved in it? We kind of all have an idea. And so that could be kind of a thing for maybe next time, but please share maybe what this woke in you, and yeah, and we can.
Well, I'll tell you what piqued my interest and where I'd want to go and research further is one, that independent state, independent nation, that is very interesting. I see where you were saying that the poet probably has a Masonic influence, in that when you had highlighted the poem and I was reading on that, it had to do with the 33 Orientals. So anytime you see 33, always has like Masonic correspondence. Those are, as the founders of the country.
Yeah, those are like a group that are very connected to the independence of the country.
Right. So like that's where it comes from. so that is very
Yeah.
interesting. And I'm very intrigued by that relationship with Buenos Aires and the specific positioning. I like how you articulated it, like, you know, being embracing the ocean or embracing the water versus embracing the mainland or the land of I guess it would call it Argentina, but it's just one body of land is in reality, and like what that kind of implies about the energy and the purpose of both of these cities, particularly with the I'm going to use the word taking over, you know, the taking over South America. You know, those were the key where the key markers where the rest of the takeover began.
And here you can see this department over here. The country is divided into 19 departments. This one is called 33.
There we go. Yeah, we got 19 and 33.
What's the significance of 19?
I mean, I just go back to, like, you know, that was a big number, particularly in the events of September 11th with like the 19 hijackers, and there's a whole bunch of 19s, and then like it was like COVID-19 19 years later, and for whatever reason 19 seems to show up in that way. You know, that's I just kind of leave it right there. I haven't gone much deeper than that. But the 33 is a little bit more established in the fact that, you know, 33 is so significant within Freemasonry, and then, you know, within the human body, having your 33 vertebrae in your spine.
Well, this was thank you for being there, for sharing your unique view on this kind of. Would you say this thing we did was kind of a glass bead game?
I think everything we do is a glass bead game, but undoubtedly, like what I really liked what we were just doing, you know, it speaks to me as an individual, is like, I really like looking at maps, and I like to look at like cities and city plans and how they are lined up, and all of the things which you just showed me were like, you know, if you and I weren't doing this, like on recording it, I would probably do the same thing if I was given the time to look at the map. So I like this stuff, and when we do this and we approach it with curiosity, as opposed to saying like, well, let's look at this map and then try to come out with something specific. And we're like, well, let's look at this map and just see where it leads us. Like, to me, that very much is like an entranceway into the gateway into playing, you know, the glass bead game. We don't know where it's going to take you, like whether it's going to be an actual place for you to further investigate. I love the fact that you were talking about how you started looking at your own city with new eyes and like starting to question, like, okay, look how this is lined up, and the cardinal points and the history and the culture. You know, I would definitely the World Cup. The World Cup's a big deal, like in terms of the play which they put in the masses' minds, and if this is where it began, you know, that's a big deal. And then understanding what that point is in terms of an acupressure point on the rest of Earth.
And I think they plan to do the 100th anniversary of the first World Cup in 2030, and they are planning to do it again. I think the idea for now is like to do it conjointly between Uruguay and Argentina.
Yeah, that certainly is interesting, and we'll we'll see what things look like in 2030. You said is when that's supposed to be. 2030 seems like an entire lifetime away, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of
setting up.
There's going to be a lot of changes, I think, on Earth prior to 2030. You know, one way or the other, it's going to be a very, very different world.
Definitely. Hey, so Mike Wann, thank you so much for being here. Please, would you like to share your socials and where people can find your stuff?
You could always just go to Susquehanna Alchemy. So the susquehannaalchemy.com. You can go and see some of my stuff there. The video or the content which I put out most frequently could be found on right now on YouTube, Susquehanna Alchemy. I see. And so that's probably the best place. I'm probably going to close down my website for a little bit. You know, in the near future, but I'll probably open that back up like in maybe 2 months or something. But you know, this was a lot of fun. I love these conversations. I love the opportunity to meet new people and to talk with new people. So thank you for sharing with me what's going on in your world.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Well, and let's stay in touch and do this again very soon. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.